Velociraptor 42. Will we be seeing Mr. SUMDeaner get break even with Pop? Or will Pop continue the trend? Or will this newcomer win the race? We'll find out in just a couple hours. So stay tuned.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Alec47. I'm going to be your host for the next couple runs, not days. That would be rather unfortunate for me. I'm already a bit tired at the end of this event. This is RPG Limit Break, brought to you by Twitch. We are benefiting the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and it looks like we are all ready to race, so without further ado, take it away.
All right, so hello everybody. I am Hactical, and on the couch with me is the Countess, and
Hello.
We have our runners here, twitchpoppop, SUMDeaner, and Velociraptor. They'll be running DQ1 SFC, so we'll get ready for a countdown. The timing for this game is going to start when the console is powered on, so they'll be turning their consoles off to ready it up, and I'll count down from 3. So you guys all ready?
I'm set. Good deal.
Cool. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so this game is the Super Famicom remake of Dragon Warrior 1. This particular version was only released in Japan, although it's very similar to the Dragon Warrior 1 and 2 release for the Game Boy Color also. So right off the bat, the characters being named is one of the most important setup parts of the run, in that the character's name determines what your character's stat growth is going to be. So in particular, they want the strength and hit point growth. So there's a couple common names that show up for that. Most usually Bopo is the common name. So you start off talking to the king, you get a couple of treasure chests, and then they're walking into the nearby town here to sort of pick up some starting equipment to get them set on their way. So, if you tuned into the Dragon Quest III run earlier, it was sort of clear that there was not a ton of story to that game. There's even less to this one. So, the general idea is that the Dragon Lord is terrorizing the land, and you're the hero who's going to go stop him. And we'll elaborate a little bit more when we get to a couple points, but that's the general concept of the game. So there's a few requirements for stopping the Dragon Lord. You need to be able to get to his castle, and you need to be strong enough to defeat him. So everything they're going to be doing is working towards those goals. So one little bit of speed tech you might notice is that when they're buying equipment, such as the club, they're not necessarily equipping it. So every time you buy an item, the merchant asks you if you want to equip it. And if you say yes, he gives you a bunch of text. It's actually much faster to say no to that and then equip it through the menu.
This is especially true when you have multiple items to equip at once.
Right. So the run starts off pretty much grinding to level 2 outside this castle. They're using these mountain tiles to get encounters a little bit more quickly, and once they get level 2, they will be walking to the east towards Myra or Cole, depending on what sort of name you're using. I'm used to the Japanese names, which would be Myra, but it sort of depends on what version you play and what translation you get otherwise.
Yep.
So this starting area, it's just blue slimes and red slimes, and looks like Diener just hit level 2, Pop is level 2, Raptor's level 2, and they're all moving on. This next area is a little bit more dangerous. You can get some ghosts, which do a bit of damage, but at level 2 they're not really too much of a problem.
Yeah, you get a nice HP boost at level 2. I believe it's 7 HP. Stat gains in this game are not randomized at all. Like Tactical said, they're kind of based on your name. So depending on your name, it'll calculate a checksum and give you one of 4 different growth combinations. So you get either HP or agility, and then you get either MP or strength. They'll grow at 100% of the built-in rate, and then the other one grows at 90% for each of those 2 pairs. And like you said, they're doing HP and strength, yeah.
Yep.
Ooh, nice catch. Oh,
Pop cutting it really close with a magician there.
Yeah, so when they're in this this last section of walking towards Myra, there's a few really dangerous enemies that show up, either the Magidraki or the Scorpions. And at the beginning, in the first town, they bought a few torches. And in this game, torches can actually be thrown as a weapon in combat. They kind of ignore defense, and they'll do, I think, 4 to 6 damage is the range. And they're really useful because you can actually kill the Magidrakis or the Scorpions with them and get a pretty big XP boost to hopefully get the characters to level 3. They're really going to need to be level 4 before moving on, but this extra XP really helps accelerate that.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of different routes they can do. I didn't see if Pop winged or if he death warped, but after you pick up the items here in Myra, the most important one they picked up was the Fairy Flute, which they'll be using a little bit later when they go to fight the Golem. They also grabbed a Strength Seed and some clothes. So after you pick that stuff up, you can either death warp back to the starting town or you can use a Chimera Wing, and it's a pretty similar effect either way. The goal again is just to get to level 4 as quickly as possible, but if you death warp, then you usually use the Seed of Strength immediately afterwards. They're going to be picking up 2 Seeds of Strength in the early game, and it's important that they get a total of 5 Strength from those 2 seeds. They roll 1 to 3 each, so you need a 2 and a 3 or 2 3s. Looks like no one's really resetting over seeds right now, so I'm assuming everybody winged.
yes, you can wing instead of death warping, and it is a more aggressive strategy. It's going to be faster, but it's going to make this beginning part of the game a little bit more dangerous.
Do we have a moment for a couple donations?
Absolutely.
All right, we have $10 from Anonymous. All $10 goes to the dude watching the DQ race once. So I believe that's Palmer, since he was the only one in the audience at the time. Also, join the community. This game is simple and fun to learn. Join the Discord. We also have $10 from Lavitz. This is all the money I have left after paying off the Dragon Lord and his army to help Pop Oyapu. Hopefully, this will raise his chance of success by at least 25%. Also, everyone should join the DQ1 SFC Dragonloop tournament that will begin in a few weeks. Good luck, Diener, Phil, and Aniki. Hopefully, Bopo won't be sleepy. And finally, we have $10 from Chris223 that just says, Speedruns for the win.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Lavitz.
So the runners now are all either level 4 or just finishing up getting level 4. They're going into the town of Garai to use the inn, which is going to restore their hit points and mana, and stock up on some items for the mountain cave. This part in particular is really important because in the mountain cave there's a chest that they're going to be opening up, and there's 2 different rewards that can be in that chest. It can either be a torch or a death necklace. And what happens in this game, if you open a chest and your inventory is full, it'll ask you if you really want to take the item or if you want to put it back. And so the runners need to fill up their inventory and make sure that it's still full by the time they get to this chest, because they specifically need the death necklace to sell for gold. So it's going to be a couple minutes before they get there, but the menu shopping trip here in Garai is very important for setting that up. It also means that this upcoming mountain cave, they'll have to go through it without using a torch. So they'll be going through it in the dark. They did buy 4 torches, but they can't use them until after they pick up that chest. So they kind of get some random encounters on the way to this mountain cave. They can be, they can be nice or they can be a little bit mean. The skeleton guys in particular, if they show up, are sort of not very friendly. And because everybody did the strategy where they winged instead of using the Seed of Strength, even things like magicians, usually you need to kill with a fireball because you don't really have enough strength to reliably take them out without taking a ton of damage. So Diener's a little bit ahead entering this mountain cave, and he'll be going through it in the dark. There's a pretty simple route to follow involving bonking into walls, and getting through it isn't quite as difficult as you may think, but if you get lost, it's sort of a bit of a mess because, like I said, you can't use the torch until after you pick up the chest. If you absolutely must, you can backtrack through the last floor, but none of these runners will be doing that.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully no one gets lost. So Diener's got kind of lucky. He's got 2 scorpions in here. You really want to hit level 5 on this floor, which Diener just did.
Nice.
Scorpions kind of give you the most XP. They're really tasty, and they always die to 1 fireball. So they're a good use of your MP and a good way to get level 5. A couple other enemies that can show up here are the Magidrakis, ghosts, and the Meta that Raptor is fighting. The Meta are pretty tough. They have really high defense, so they take a few turns to kill, especially if you opted to not use the early strength seed.
Looks like they've all got level 5 now.
Yep. So they'll be heading down to towards the 2nd floor. I don't really know how far they all are because you can't really see the area they're in, but you'll know soon enough. I think Diener just entered the 2nd floor, at least. And there's a few chests in here that are important. So the first one he'll be picking up is 600 something gold, and then afterwards it'll be the chest for the death necklace.
And you were talking about 5, level 5. We got $5 here from Kyo's Little Monster, who ran Final Fantasy 15 earlier in the marathon. Kyo-san here to donate to hear Alec K talk. Good luck to all the runners. Best of luck in Ganbatte. Donation goes to Palmer's Choice.
So Diener got a very quick 2nd try death necklace. He is already on his way to pick up the rest of the items here on this floor.
Nice.
In particular, there's an iron shield, which will raise their defense, an MP seed, which will be used for giving the runners more ability to cast spells, and a strength seed, which I mentioned earlier that is pretty critical.
Don't think we mentioned earlier, but it's a 1 in 16 chance every time you open the chest for it to be the death necklace.
Yep, that's right.
So 2 tries for me is very fast.
I'm not sure what the record most number of
I
tries
just got
is.
8.
That's good.
I think the record most is like over 100 tries for the death necklace.
I
so
have 106, I think, is my best.
There you go.
Pop's got it too.
Ooh.
All right. So all 3 runners have the death necklace, and they're all moving on to finish collecting the items. So that's pretty good. That's a kind of a big source of randomness in the early part of the run. If it's not, usually run ending or anything, but if one person gets it on 2nd try and another person gets stuck for 50 or 60 tries, that can be a pretty significant difference. So it's good that they all got it pretty quickly.
Oh.
Sounded like Pop may not have made it.
Yeah, so looks like Pop died on the way to the items in the mountain cave. So the runners do want to die in the mountain cave, which you see SUMDeaner doing right now as a death warp out, but you really need to pick up those items first because the strength seed is so important. So I'm assuming Pop is going to go back to get them, to get those items that he missed.
Yeah. If he didn't make it to the shield, he'll want that for sure.
Right.
This might also be a good time to mention with the death necklace that like these runners don't all necessarily speak Japanese, but this game's a really easy game to pick up even if you're running it in Japanese. There's really not too many like item names that you need to remember to be able to successfully get through a run of this. Like in particular, the death necklace prompt, there's the word torch and the word death necklace, they look very different, so they're easy to catch.
Looks like Velociraptor just hit his death warp also, so
Yep.
now the runners are going to be moving on towards Rimuldar, which will allow them to buy some magic keys and also purchase a steel sword with the money that they'll get from selling the death necklace. They'll be killing some stuff along the way for experience. They really want to get level 6 before hitting to Rimuldar, and maybe 1 or 2 fights after level 6 if possible. And Pop, in the meantime, is heading back to the mountain cave to finish picking up the items. Hopefully he won't have any problems with it the next time. He'll have his MP back from that death and should be able to get through it pretty quickly.
And you can also use the torch on the way down, which saves a little time. You don't have to bump into walls.
The half tiling will be easier too. Do you guys want to mention that really quickly?
Yeah, that's a good idea. So one thing that you'll see the runners doing when they're moving through dungeons or overworld or anywhere with encounters is something called half stepping or half tiling. You'll see them intentionally bonk into a corner, and what that does is the game sort of forces you to the side to go around the corner. It only works if they're moving up and down. It doesn't work left to right. But during that half tile step, it doesn't increase your encounter threat, or you can't get an encounter on that half tile step. So maximizing your half tiles will help minimize your unwanted encounters. And there are certain points in the game where they'll want encounters, but there's also many of them where they just want to avoid them. If you were watching the DQ3 race earlier, it does a similar effect when you're moving, but in that game it doesn't actually affect your encounters, whereas in this game it's very important that you're really optimizing those steps.
Yes, there are many sections where the half tiling is useful, but there's one section in particular where it's extremely useful, so we'll get to that much later.
Yep.
So some of these encounters, like the ones that Diener's fighting now with his wolf outside of Rimmeldar, are actually pretty scary. They can do a lot of damage, but they're also worth a lot of experience. So Diener knows how much strength he's gotten from his strength seeds, and knows how much damage gear will do, and so he can pretty easily figure out the best way to tackle these guys. You really want to save your MP for fighting them for the experience rather than using it to heal if possible, but he's got tons of herbs left over. I don't know how many Raptor has.
I have 4.
So Raptor's in really good shape also. Meanwhile, Pop is still making his way back through the mountain cave. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about like how running away works in this game?
If it's different from NES, I don't know.
So,
It's agility based, right?
no. So, the first time you try to run away, you'll get a 50% chance of fleeing from an encounter. The second time, it's again 50%. The third time, it's 75%, and then the fourth and later, it's 7/8. There is not a guaranteed run unless you severely out-level the area you're in. So later on, they'll be revisiting the beginner areas of the game, and at a high enough level or high enough strength power, they'll be guaranteed runs. But in general, it's 50-50, 75, and then 7/8 until you either make it or you die.
Yeah.
There is one notable exception, that if an enemy is asleep, then I can always run away successfully.
Right, or if you surprise the enemy and they don't see you, that's also a guaranteed runaway on the first turn.
I do want to complain about that scorpion that Raptor was having some trouble with. The metal scorpions can actually defend, which is pretty much useless in one-on-one combat, but they do it to annoy you. So they'll just take half damage from your attacks, and if you cast a spell on them when they defend, it'll basically waste your magic.
Yep.
I will say that he decided to defend when he would have killed me if he decided to swing, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, there is that too.
Yeah, one common theme that you'll see that goes along with sort of what Raptor was just saying is that throughout the run, the runners will be keeping in mind various hit point thresholds for certain dungeons they're in, and that's just to maximize their chances of surviving regardless of what happens, regardless of what spells the enemies cast or what they run into. But there's certain areas, and a couple in particular, where surviving is not guaranteed no matter how tightly you're keeping your HP up. So
Yeah, we saw that earlier in the mountain cave where Pop died, unfortunately, because he fell asleep. So
Right.
can't heal when you're asleep.
Nope. And there's a couple places with some pretty strong enemies that can outdamage you also.
Yeah.
So in Rimmeldar, which Diener has already finished, they purchased a bunch of magic keys. They picked up some life force nuts and a defense seed, and sold the death necklace for some gold to buy a steel sword, which they'll be using to continue onwards. They're using the magic keys they bought back here in the starting town to pick up another agility seed and an MP seed and some money, and then they're going over here to get the stones of sunlight and another life force knot. So it's all kind of set up for what's needed later. The stones of sunlight is a required plot item.
NPCs in his way.
So NPCs in this game move kind of randomly, and they can get you stuck or block off
Yep.
important areas. There's some great emotes for those in various channels out there.
Star no.
Star no.
That's this NPC in particular in the entrance of Rimildar here can take like a half step off and like block two, like the path is 2 tiles wide, but she'll block the whole thing because she's just standing in the middle of it.
How inconsiderate.
I know, right? We're trying to save these people.
Meanwhile, speaking of mildly inconsiderate things perhaps, Palmer, would you mind just kind of staying there for the rest of the marathon? Because you seem to be bringing in donations for whatever reason. We have another $5 from Kios Little Monster. It says, another $5 to troll Palmer and tell him he's not my dad. Donation goes to Palmer's choice.
All right, so Diener's now headed back to Garai, which they were in earlier. Raptor is cleaning up the chests in the starting town. So what Diener's doing here is he's buying some chainmail armor. He's taking the inn to restore his resources, and then he's going to be diving into Garai's tomb to get the silver harp, which is another required story item that he's going to need to get. And in the meantime, getting blocked off by another NPC.
I got that hot 1 agility. Yeah.
Ooh, I got twice as much.
Nice.
And Pop's not that far behind. He's about to get out of the swamp cave and head toward Rimildar, but he's actually got pretty good experience right now because he hit level 6 before he left did the death warp in the Rocky Mountain cave.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's one thing that's sort of easy to overlook sometimes, is that even if you die in an area, if you're getting experience, you're still moving yourself farther towards your goal. You know, in the end, these characters are going to need to be level 18 in order to fight the Dragon Lord reliably, so any experience you get kind of moves you further towards that. You know, Diener's now in Garai Tomb, and you need to get level 7 in here to move on to the lower floors to get the sleep spell, for example. So, you know, there's a chance he may have to grind a couple extra encounters, whereas Pop will probably just naturally get level 7 because of his extra experience, which could make up a little bit of time.
I was thinking he might get level 7 before Rimildar, but it didn't look like it. Yeah. He only needed like 225 XP after his death warp. But he should be really close, though.
Yeah. So you'll notice that Diener isn't half-stepping in this dungeon because he really wants to get encounters because he needs level 7. So that's that half-stepping that we were talking about earlier. This is sort of the opposite goal of that. One thing that's really interesting about this run is that in terms of RPG speedrunning, it's not very complicated. So the ways that you save time and the places that you save time may be sort of unexpected. So one thing that you may have noticed is that when the runners pick up the life force nuts right around when they're picking up the stone of sunlight in that basement, they don't use them right away. They actually save them for walking to Garai and use them in combat, because it's much quicker. You don't have to open the menu, you don't have to wait for as much text to animate, and there's a lot of little time saves like that in this run. It's really all about the little things and the little optimizations that add up over the course of the run to really make a good time.
And maybe just a little luck.
From time to time. Also worth noting, since we didn't mention it earlier, is that this is run with, you know, the Japanese rule set because this game was only officially released in Japan. So timing obviously is JRTA, from power on to the end, but also the use of turbo controllers is allowed in this run to follow the Japanese rule set. So that kind of creates some menu optimizations and some other kind of neat side effects.
It doesn't do nearly as much as it did in DQ3, but it does still do some stuff.
Right. It's certainly playable and runnable without one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you can see Diener was sort of, he healed and then he double checked his hit points and then casted another heal before going onto this bottom floor. There's a few enemies that can show up on these lower floors. A couple of them are vulnerable to sleep and they're pretty tasty for experience, but there's a skeleton guy, a Wraith Knight, that can show up and he can sort of ruin your day if he decides to swing at you a few times. That said, some of these other enemies like these ghosts can too. That ghost has tried to put Diener to sleep and thankfully missed.
Nope.
Looks like Raptor's hunting for level 7 and Pop is picking up the Stones of Sunlight. So Pop's really not too far behind.
I don't think we've explained like what our goal is for picking up all these items, but we need to create a bridge to get to the Dragon Lord's castle. So we need the Stones of Sunlight and the Staff of Rain for that. And they've already got one piece, and they're in this cave here, this tomb, to pick up the silver harp. Says there's an old guy who will trade you the Staff of Rain for it. And then besides that, we just need to get a token, because the guy who makes the rainbow drop to make the bridge for you, he wants you to show proof that you are the hero. So apparently that involves picking up a token that someone dropped in the swamp.
Yes, if you saw Dragon Quest 3 earlier, it's the same set of items, the same sequence of events.
Yeah.
So Raptor hit level 7. He's also now diving into the lower floors of Garai's tomb. Meanwhile, Diener's just trying to kill a couple more enemies before he'll be taking an intentional death warp.
Yeah.
These Meta Lord that he's fighting now can be really trolly and just decide to heal over and over again, which
Like this.
just waste a bunch of time.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
So what they're going to do after this tomb here is they're going to go fight the golem, and that's why they're kind of like their current level goal is level 8, because they need to have enough HP to survive at least one hit from him. And it's also why they're picking up all these HP seeds and things. Because the golem, like, really the primary reason to go fight him is because he gives you 3 levels. It'll take him all the way to level 11. And that'll make him strong enough to do, like, the next step of the speedrun route.
Yeah, so if you're familiar with the NES version of this game at all, a lot of things were sort of rebalanced for this version. It plays very differently, in particular the XP curves from bosses. So as the Countess was just saying, Golem in particular gives a ton of experience. Also, shortly after that, we'll see the dragon that's guarding the princess gives quite a bit of experience. The category that these runners are playing is actually called the Dragonloop, and that'll be obvious why pretty shortly. But needless to say, it involves a dragon. So Diener's finished his death warp. He's heading on to that golem walk. He'll be trying to get level 8 on the walk before entering the really dangerous area. But
He's actually already got
I've
level 8.
actually, yes.
Oh, you already got level 8.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So that's actually really good because it means that he'll have more MP and more resources for this walk also.
It is slightly slower to take the extra time to level up, but it just sort of worked out that way this time.
Yep. Looks like Velociraptor has also death warped.
Good till next level.
Yeah, the golem on the original NES version of this game gives you single-digit gold and experience, so the boss here gives quite a bit more than that.
Yeah.
It's kind of a troll because he is one of the toughest monsters in the game on NES, but he just doesn't give you anything when you beat him. You just get access to the town he's guarding, which is a very important town, but really I think other than like the seeds they pick up, there's nothing in there that they can't get somewhere else, right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Hmm.
It's a little more convenient for a couple items based on the routing, but in general,
Yeah.
they can get everything except the seeds.
You wouldn't walk there for fairy water, though.
Right. So this section that Diener is coming towards now is going to be very dangerous. So you're not meant to walk to the golem at level 8, and you'll be running into some really high-level enemies. There's a skeleton Kage, who you really hope to never see. There are armor knights, which are these blue guys with axes. You've got a couple different types of chimeras. There's a magic chimera, which can put you to sleep, and there's a star chimera, which is just a very dangerous enemy. And there's some pros and cons to how you react to this walk. It's not just running away from enemies. There's going to be a couple enemies that are somewhat vulnerable to sleep. So SUMDeaner right now is trying to put this Axe Knight to sleep, and he actually got stop spelled.
That's weird.
Nice Kaishin.
Ooh.
Nice. And the Axe Knights and the Star Chimeras have an 85% chance to be hit by sleep, but you sort of have to keep in mind your resources as you're going through this and sort of play your odds of, do you try to run versus do you cast sleep? How much MP do you have left? Because you do need to heal also.
There's 8.
All right, Velociraptor is level 8. He can now begin the dangerous part of the Golem Walk.
Yep.
So the Golem Walk, there's a lot of subtlety in terms of maximizing your chances of getting through there, but there are times where that walk can just kill you, and there's nothing you can really do about it. On the other hand, there's one enemy in particular that can show up during that Golem Walk, which is our friend the Metal Slime, and if he shows up and they happen to kill him, he's worth 775 experience, so... but it doesn't look like Diener got one. We'll see if either of the other runners do. Getting that before fighting the Golem is really nice because it gives you some extra damage for the Golem and cuts down on the XP you'll need later. So for the Golem fight itself, they picked up the Fairy Flute in Myra, which was that first town that they walked to. And when you use that on the Golem, it's guaranteed to put him to sleep. And he'll stay that way for at least a turn, and he can wake up on the second turn, which means that you can guarantee to hit and then flute and then hit and then flute. Usually runners, if they're at full health, will try to do 2 hits between flutes to sort of cut down on this jingle that you're hearing every time that the flute plays. But if they run out of healing resources, then they'll be forced to just kind of alternate between the two for safety. Golem has 155 hit points, so counting damage is certainly a feasible thing. So the final hits you can sort of optimize.
Yeah, I can skip one use of playing the flute just to hit him an extra time.
Ooh, I surprised him. Free run. I love it. So good.
All right, so it looks like Raptor made it through the Golem Walk. And Pop is just a little bit behind.
Yep, he's on his way. He needs a little XP to hit level 8, but then he's already right here at Hawksness, so I think he only needed a little over 100,
Kaishin.
so that's just a couple enemies.
Yeah, so Diener got a critical hit on the Golem, which saves a lot of time because it does so much damage, and it saves multiple uses of the Fairy Flute, and it takes, I think, about 10 seconds or so for that jingle to play, so
Yeah.
every use of it you can save is pretty significant.
We have a $15 donation from Freedom Pulse. I was going to think of something creative for this, but it's almost 5 a.m. So I'll just say that Marla better than Luca. So she should get the Death Peak hug. Speaking of that bid war, we do have a few others for upcoming runs. As of right now, we are looking at a pretty close bid war for the class choice in the next run, Heroine's Quest. Right now, Sorceress is winning with $210. Warrior is very close with $202.77, and Rogue is got $25. Not to say it won't win. You could donate a bunch for it. Dark horses are always interesting. We also have the bid war to decide Rex's love in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, with the choices of being Pyra and Mithra. There's only a $15 difference in that bid war. And we also have a bid war for the voice language in English and Japanese, which is just over $20 difference. So if you have a preference in one of those bid wars, by all means get in on that and donate.
That.
Alright, so Velociraptor had a critical hit on the Golem, which means he should be getting probably pretty close to taking out the Golem. Pop is just now about to start the Golem fight.
So did we all get through first try on Golem?
Looks like.
That's really good.
So one thing that that I find really interesting, and the reason why Pop is the master, is Pop actually fought an Armor Knight on the way to the Golem walk to get level 8. I don't think I've ever seen someone do that before, but Pop knew that he would be able to beat it, and was better than grinding out experience for level 8 before moving on. So that'll help. Any little time save to help catch him up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I think he's completely out of healing resources, so he's got to just do the hit and flute alternating.
Yeah.
Maybe he can get a critical hit like the other two to speed it up.
Alright, so SUMDeaner is back in the Marsh Cave, which was the one on the way to Rimmildar, and is about to start the Dragonloop, for which the category is named. So the dragon over here is guarding the princess, and will grant 950 experience upon being killed. And the dragon has 153 hit points. And
157.
157?
Right?
No, it's 153.
Oh. Well, I don't know anything then. Don't listen to me.
The dragon has some amount of hit points in the 150s, and
Oops.
is usually a pretty safe fight. In particular, the runners will want to be counting damage, because they want to end this fight at low hit points. So the reason this category is named Dragonloop is because they'll be fighting this dragon 7 times. Ooh. SUMDeaner finished the fight with a critical hit, which means that he's really not as low of hit points as he wants to be. It's better than dying, but... so the idea is that they'll talk to the princess and bring her with them. But if you die while you're bringing the princess back to the castle, then it sort of resets the whole sequence. So the princess will go back to the cave, the dragon will be back guarding her, and you will respawn at the town. And so that's what's going to happen, is they're going to intentionally death warp to lose the princess so they can refight the dragon. Bringing the princess back to the town is not actually a required part of the game, although there was a donation incentive for bringing the princess with them to the Dragon Lord's castle, which then also brings her back to town at the end, which I'm pretty sure got met. So I believe the runners will be doing that at the end of at the end of the game. But
Thanks so much to everybody who donated for that.
Right. It's going to change how I do the Dragon Loop, that's for sure.
That poor princess has a lot she's got to go through to get there, though.
yeah,
So you're saying she will blush 21 times and see a dragon defeated, hopefully.
that's the idea.
Well,
24 times, actually.
The so in Malkido, after the Golem, the runners bought a bunch of holy water, which prevents encounters in low-level areas. So they're using those so they can get back to the dragon without getting extra encounters, and that's part of the reason that it's so critical they end the dragon fights with low hit points. Part of it is that they kill themselves in the swamp, so the more hit points you have, the longer it takes to death warp. But the more steps you take to Death Warp, it also wears down that holy water faster. So in the first half of the Dragonloop, it's not as tight of a step count, but in the second half, it'll be a little bit more important. And, you know, if they run out of holy water, the only real downside is they'll get random encounters. It's just a little bit slower. But Velociraptors finishing up Dragon number 1 here, I think, and SUMDeaner's on to Dragon number 2.
Nice.
Another of those like minor optimizations you mentioned earlier that you'll see them doing in the March Cave here is that after they walk through all the swamp, when they get into a fight on the way to the dragon, they'll usually cast heal during that fight rather than doing it in the normal menu.
Right. Yeah, and again, that's the same reason as that Life Force nut from earlier. It's just for speed. The text displays faster. You're in the fight anyway. If they don't get into a fight, they'll heal, or whatever. They'll heal before the dragon itself.
Critical hits.
Hey, I got one in to help me out.
This one's not as bad.
So the Dragonloop is a little bit interesting because even though you're fighting the same monster 7 times, the fight really does evolve as you go through the loop because your level changes and your relative power changes, as well as some of your abilities. You end up with the return spell. Sometimes in between the dragons, you'll have some extra steps that you need to do, and your damage increases as you level up. So the number of hits required is going to change, and your chance of outspeeding the dragon is going to change, which means that at higher levels you can, I don't want to say play more risky, but you can keep your health at a slightly lower threshold on the final hits, expecting that you may outspeed the dragon.
And that's another kind of important difference between this engine and the NES engine is that on NES you will always go first right after you pick your command, but on this one it's agility based. So if you're close to the same agility as the monster you're fighting, you don't have a guaranteed chance of going first or second.
And in fact, it can create situations where the monster ends up going twice in a row.
Yeah.
Second on one turn and then first on the following turn.
Right.
Many of our HP lines are take that into consideration. So.
Right, so specifically on the dragon fight, your HP line is 41 because the dragon can breathe flame, which will do up to 20 damage. So if he does it twice and you have 41, you can survive it. The Dragonloop is a little bit of a... There's a lot of subtlety that goes on with counting damage and knowing what your chances of outspeeding the dragon are and what action you should take. You know, there's a chance that you might be, for example, the dragon may miss near the end of the fight and you're at higher hit points than you want, and you may need to take an action just to kind of blow a turn to get yourself lower down to even lower HP. And just kind of understanding that is sort of one of the big hurdles of learning this run. It's just knowing how the dragon fight evolves the more you fight it.
Yep.
Looks like Pop ended his dragon with pretty low hit points, so...
Yeah, he had 7 after his first dragon.
Okay, Kaishin.
So there was an example where SUMDeaner knew he had a pretty decent chance of outspeeding the dragon.
Kind of a risk I didn't want to take, but...
Yeah.
Too late now. It's fine.
I think it's, 80% or so at level 12? So... reasonably good chance, but in Dragon Quest, a reasonably good chance is not always good enough.
We have a $20 donation from Kamyo that just says, "Fight me, Sorcerer's Scrubs." So yes, that does mean Warrior is back in the lead for the class choice bid war in Heroine's Quest. And we also have $10 from the Lucha Bear. "I couldn't bear it if RPG Limit Break would go by without me giving at least something for the good cause. Glad that I barely caught the Dragon Warrior 1 race, and that I'm able to make my donation while these 3 great runners race through one of the best RPGs of all time. And Palmer is sitting on the couch too. Amazing. Keep up the good work, everyone, and now take my money."
I hope
Thanks so much
Sparkover's
for that
watching.
donation.
I hope Sparkover's watching to appreciate the Bears. So since Diener's finished up the third dragon, he's buying a fresh stock of holy water to get him through the second part of the grind. Pop is on his second dragon, and Raptor is heading towards his third. So the race is still quite close. They're all on the Dragonloop. They're only, a couple minutes apart, so there's certainly enough time for some variance later on as the run continues.
Just one Axe Knight death will be
Yep.
will be enough. Let alone 5.
Our goal level from this loop is going to be level 15. I don't know if that was mentioned yet, but like the first dragon will give you a level, then after that it's pretty much 2 dragons per level. And they might need to kill a couple of the little random cave monsters to get their last level, but they'll make sure to do that before killing the last dragon so it doesn't lose any time.
Yeah, and the goal for level 15 is you get the Repel spell, which helps with some overworld movement, and it sets you up with enough hit points to be able to fight the Axe Knight to get Roto's armor, which we'll see a little bit later. We've got a few more dragons to go before we get there.
Yep. Another minor optimization is that it saves a decent amount of time if you use your holy water before the previous holy water wears off. I just saw Pop do it over there.
Yep, and that can be really difficult to keep track of during the Dragonloop because it really does depend on the amount of hit points you end a dragon fight with and how many steps you have to take. So
Yeah.
there's a few holy waters where you know exactly when it will end, but there are some others where it can be hard to keep track of that. And even in some cases where you might not want to immediately reuse a holy water, if it expires as soon as you leave the town, you may actually want to take some steps without it, so that way you get more total value out of your next one. So Diener has finished dragon number 4. He'll be actually, instead of death warping in the swamp, returning to town so that way he can stock up on magic keys. You may have noticed, but the dragon is guarded by a door that requires magic keys, so you need to use one every time you fight him. So you can only carry 6 at once, and you need to restock here halfway through the Dragonloop. And conveniently enough, there's also some damage tiles in this castle that he can death warp on to save a little bit of time, because you take really high damage from these tiles. So stock up on keys, death warp, and then continue on to dragon number 5. Star
No. No.
You drop the poor princess in the swamp 3 times, and then, she finally gets her hopes up that you finally brought her home, and then you just kill her in the basement.
Yeah, you're walking through the castle that you're supposed to bring her back to with the princess, but she's too lazy. She just wants you to carry her, and you decide it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Princess's life is hard.
It's not our fault that she didn't want to go where we're going.
Just a reminder that RPG Limit Break benefits the National Alliance on Mental Illness. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, and this is Mental Health Month in May, is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization. So not only is this an incredibly important cause, but we just happen to select the month that is Mental Health Month in the United States. And a couple things to bear in mind. 1 in 5 Americans live with a mental health condition. So that's a lot of people. And you'll look around the world and it's a similar amount of people there. Anywhere else you could go. And people in the US, the average delay from the first symptoms of psychosis, which is just one type of mental illness, to treatment is 7 weeks in the United States, but in the US, 74 weeks. So we are really not doing well in that regard, and that is one of the many issues that NAMI aims to fix.
Okay.
So it looked like, did Pop get his fairy water and keys in the same trip?
Yep, so you can do that after the third dragon when you restock on fairy water. You can also restock on your magic keys at that point. Usually the reason you would do that is if you ended the third dragon with really high health, it's faster to death warp on those tiles. The downside is that you'll have one fewer key at the end of the run. You always end the run, well, I shouldn't say always. The buying keys after the fourth dragon means that you'll have one extra key left at the end of the run, which is useful if you die in the Dragon Lord's castle because you can get back into it without needing to buy another key.
Yeah.
So Pop won't be able to do that if he ends up dying at that point unless he buys another key at some point. But it probably saved him time on that shopping trip to do it that way.
And it's not really a big deal to buy another key at the end if you need to, because generally you're in Rimgildar to use the inn anyway, and the key store is right there.
I almost forgot. I want to get my items now.
Yeah, so when the runners went to Malkido after fighting the golem, they put a few items in the bank, in the vault. The fairy flute and the silver harp and the stones of sunlight and the dragon scale. A bunch of really required mandatory items. They don't need the flute anymore, but they're going to want everything else back. And they put them in the bank so they had more room for that fairy water. And now they have enough inventory space that they can reclaim those items, get use out of the dragon scale for some extra defense, and go back to killing the last couple dragons.
Yeah.
The bank menu in this game is kind of notoriously a little bit wonky, and it's commonly referred to as the vault boss because it's really easy to miss menu. But Diener got through it with no problem, so...
Yep. It's also important that they withdraw their stuff because they got the silver harp out of the vault, and they're going to trade that in after they hit level 15.
So now that I'm level 14, my initiative rate against the dragon is extremely high.
Yep.
Over 99%.
Yeah, so you can pretty much count on going first at this point. And in addition, it's possible, with good damage rolls, that if the dragon doesn't breathe much fire, that you can just kind of hold Turbo X through this whole fight. And it's not something you normally want to do, but it
Except
happens
I
on
got
occasion.
ambushed.
Yeah, getting back attacked by Mr. Dragon is not super friendly.
Just to be safe. Okay.
All right.
So yeah, the runners are just still continuing on with the Dragonloop.
One more to go.
One more to go for SUMDeaner. I'm sure he knows what his experience is like, but you can check when you die here, the king will tell you how much experience you need to your next level. So it looks like SUMDeaner needs 929, so the next dragon will be guaranteed to get him level 15 that he needs. If it had come out over 950, then he might want to fight one or two of the small encounters in the marsh cave, but he's in good shape. And that sort of just depends on how your XP thresholds from a little bit earlier played out, what sort of random encounters you were able to kill on the way to the Golem Walk and such.
Yep.
I think Pop just took down dragon number 5.
And Raptors at the vault.
So yeah, really tight race so far.
Shoot. I got vault bossed.
Happens to everyone.
Yeah, Golem Walk was pretty cooperative, and it's usually the thing that can, like, divide a race.
Mm-hmm.
One of the bigger obstacles.
Yeah, Golem Walk is definitely an intimidating point into learning this run because it's required to do it at that level for this route, and there's
it can feel overwhelming, yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of RNG that goes into it, and there's also some subtle differences in how you play it, and it's definitely a hurdle that can frustrate some new runners to it.
So I'm 40 experience over, so it's not too bad.
So SUMDeaner is level 15.
This is a really good start for me.
He'll be picking up the princess and then leaving here. Yeah, 54-minute Dragonloop is quite a good time.
Yeah.
Yes.
SUMDeaner managed to today avoid casting outside instead of radiant when entering the dragon cave. It's really easy to mix those two up. They look sort of similar, and they're right next to each other on the menu.
Practice earlier, I was making a lot of mistakes, so much fewer this time around.
And as mentioned earlier, now they have the repel spell, which has a similar effect to the fairy water. So they can walk through these low-level areas without getting encounters, and they don't need to keep fairy water stocked up in their inventory. Pop is slowly catching up to Velociraptor, but both in the Dragon number 6 area.
It happens.
Yes, for anyone who doesn't know, Pop is quite possibly the world's best player at this category. He knows lots of tricks and a lot of optimizations and very efficient menuing, so it's hard to stay ahead of him. And if you are ahead of him, it's hard to keep that lead.
Yeah, it's sort of a common thing in Dragon Quest races, especially Dragon Quest 1, for the good runners to sort of keep an eye on their opponents and adjust their strategies, to give themselves the best chance of catching up. And Pop is an absolute master of that. He knows all of the things he can cut and little optimizations depending on what other people are doing. So you may notice that SUMDeaner is traveling back to the Domdora or Hawkness area. That's because this area contains Roto's armor, and it's very good armor. It protects you from step damage like poison swamps. It restores your hit points when you walk, and it is guarded by the one and only Axe Knights.
All right, friend.
There's more than one.
Or as we like to call him, Diener's Bane.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So it's a very complicated fight. You have to hold the X button
Yes.
and hope you win. So it normally takes 4 hits. Diener got it.
Nice.
He can put you to sleep, which if he does that, if you wake up the next turn, it's a wash. It doesn't matter. He took 1 turn.
Nice Kaishin.
Nothing really happened. But if you stay asleep for more than a turn, you're probably just going to be dead.
You either need him to fail another sleep spell later or get a critical hit. Normally the fight proceeds. Normally we just trade blows until the last turn, and as long as I outspeed him, I'll win. But that initiative rate is probably like 75%, and sleep spell will devastate you in that fight.
There'll be more of them later, but not till the Dragon Lord's castle.
That might be the fastest I've ever picked up Roto's armor, personally.
So it looks like Pop and Raptor are done with their Dragon Loops.
I didn't hit 15 yet, though. This'll do it, though.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice, really good time for everybody. Sub 1 hour Dragon Loops, especially in a race situation, is you can't really complain too much about it. So SUMDeaner now is heading over towards where Roto's token is, which again will be a required story item. And conveniently enough, it's near an area with relatively high-level encounters. So this will be the grind spot for the run.
Yep.
And it's a bit of a grind. It'll probably be about 15 minutes or so of just fighting stuff. They need to get around level 17 before they end. They need to be level 17 before they enter the Dragon Lord's castle, and really before they rest at the inn at Rimuldar. So they will be fighting one more dragon before going there. So they need to be at a little over 16,000 experience, and really probably want a few fights past that also for a bit of a buffer, because again, they'll need level 18 by the end of the run. So
Okay.
Now you say that, but technically,
right. So technically,
goodness.
Dragon Lord is beatable at level 17. The record run would do that. I don't think anybody would ever do that in a race situation, but for real serious RTA record attempt type runs, level 17 Dragon Lord strats are used. They're very dangerous. I think it's about a 10% chance of success. You have less MP. You really just not as well equipped to fight the Dragon Lord. You really want 1 or 2 crits on Dragon Lord too in order to reasonably be successful at it.
Right,
Yep.
your strength stat is significantly lower at level 17, so you basically need to score at least 1 critical hit to win.
So I don't think we'll see a level 17 Dragon Lord fight tonight, but they're out there for any serious runners, or if anybody wants to check out a record type run, which I think Pop has the record in this at the moment.
He does.
With I actually don't know what the time is.
It's a 1:16.
1:16?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an insanely fast time. I highly recommend anybody who enjoys this run to watch that run, because it's
Yep. Uh-oh.
Please try it again. Please try it again.
First.
Oh, wait, I might got it. Yes.
Got it.
Good.
good job.
Don't forget to heal
2
yourself.
HP left.
Yeah.
Don't die in the swamp.
Pop is right behind him, starting the Axe Knight himself.
Oh,
Oh.
nice.
Nice.
First try,
Oh, no
Axe Knight,
wonder.
everybody.
Wow.
Guess who
Try
didn't equip his
Golem Walk.
dragon
We've been having
scale?
very few setbacks from the runners. This is a very, very good race so far.
I never equipped my dragon scale.
Ow, ow, ow.
and now we have to hope you just didn't jinx them.
Yeah, we do still have Charlock and the Dragon Lord coming.
Oh
up.
yeah, that's the biggest part though. So
I think Dragon Quest sometimes jinxes itself, despite your best efforts.
there's no such thing as luck.
So this grind is a little bit interesting. It's pretty straightforward. You're really just walking around, swinging at things. There's a little bit of subtlety with how you handle the Star Chimeras. They will heal themselves, so you can put them to sleep at certain points to mitigate that healing they do if you have MP left. You can take some half tile steps like you see Diener doing above the mountains. Those half tiles, again, don't increase your encounter threat, but they do still heal you from Roto's armor. If anybody's played the Game Boy Color version of it, half steps don't exist in that game, so you can't take advantage of the encounter threat, and it also means that Roto's armor heals you at half the rate. So that version actually, some people run that with a slightly different route with more dragons.
Yeah.
Instead of doing this grind, because you don't have the full healing capabilities. It is also an option to heal in between fights if you have the MP, but that's not necessarily a guarantee, and it's kind of slow. So
No Mataros for me, sadness.
yeah, it doesn't seem like any of the runners got a metal slime. They all just walk back through the first half of that golem walk area where metal slimes can show up. This is the last time they'll be there, so unfortunately,
We didn't
No.
even see Metal Slime.
Mm-mm.
no Metaru to grace us with its presence.
Because we actually do have a cool frame manipulation technique to help us damage the metal slimes. We can't guarantee that they'll stick around, but if they do stick around long enough, we can guarantee that we'll kill them.
Mm-hmm.
Something that bugs me every time I watch or play this version of this game is that the Erdrick's token, they've moved it half of a tile to the right of where it is on the NES.
No, it's in the same spot just when you search, or miss the spot like I just did. It comes up a half tile to the left of you.
Yeah, you're
That's
supposed to get a clue, and as well as another item from rescuing the princess to get clues to figure out where that item is buried. It's a certain number of steps south and west of the castle town that we started at. Now the castle in this version actually sits on a half tile, so that's why the token is also on a half tile.
The more you know.
So yeah, if you have any donations or anything like that, now's a good time. Or maybe not. Yeah, looks like they don't have any donations at the moment, so yeah, this...
Oh, let's get some in.
Yeah,
Right, donate, yo.
get some donations in, so can have something to fill the time. Again, it's going to be a few more minutes here. It's going to be nice and cozy. This run is pretty cozy at times. You know, it's pretty fun to just kind of kick back and play some Dragon Quest sometimes. Again, if you were watching the race of Dragon Quest 3 earlier, I always feel like that run can be pretty stressful, whereas DQ1 is a little bit more laid back. Not to say it's easy, but it's a bit different, and makes a great late night run like this.
Yeah, there's lots of people in our the Dragon Quest community who know this run, and it seems like at any time you could probably ask around in chat if you wanted to race and find someone to race with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I love racing Dragon Quest games, not just this one, but they make for fun race games because of how different the experience is each time, and also because of certain random elements of the game. Even if you're a beginning player, if you can get through a Dragon Quest game, then you can win a race against anyone.
Yeah,
So
anything can happen.
Pop is, like I said, quite possibly one of the world's best players, and he has probably the best chance of winning, but any one of us could win this race. Any of us could come in second, and any of us can come in third.
Absolutely.
Nice, Kaishin.
Kaishin no Ichigai.
So you guys want to maybe talk about like variable HP with monsters? That's a pretty cool topic.
Sure. I don't know the exact percentages, but
It's 80% in this version.
80%. So every time you run into a random monster, except for fixed monsters, every monster has a maximum HP they can roll, and when you run into one, it will have somewhere between 80 and 100% of that max HP. Their max HP will still be that. So if an enemy had, for an example, 100 max HP, it could spawn with 80, but if it cast a heal spell, it could still go up to 100. So it's really important to know that with the star chimeras that show up here, because if they cast Behoimi or heal more, they can actually end up with more HP than they started the fight with.
Typically, we can defeat them in 2 hits, but once they cast heal, it's always going to take 3 more hits. Well,
Until you get to level
nearly
16.
almost always.
Once we get to level 16, we can hit it for 37, so we can actually kill it in 2 shots, but it's
You need to
rare.
roll either 2 37s or a 36 and a 37.
Which I actually did in my practice run today. Oh, I missed the sleep spell. Cool
But
story.
that's typically our strategy. Once they heal themselves, we're going to hit them one more time and then put them to sleep and finish them off before they have a chance of healing again.
Or you just miss the sleep spell in my case.
Yep. So SUMDeaner and Pop are both level 16. Raptor's probably getting pretty close.
Yeah, I have to be by now. Just die, thank you.
Now you can see this is taking a while. Why don't you explain, perhaps for the viewers, why grinding here is better than doing another Dragonloop or 2 or however many?
Basically, the amount of XP, it goes up exponentially here. Like, so, we've been gaining levels where it's been 1,300, 1,500 experience to get a level, and 2 dragons is pretty easy for that, but at this point we're in the over 2000s now, and we get a lot of encounters here that are 100 plus XP, so we just are going to get 950 XP a lot quicker in here.
Yeah, the experience per minute is better out here. We can survive out here because of how Roto's armor heals us, which we couldn't do before. And also these hills tiles have much higher encounter rates than the other kinds of tiles in the overworld, so.
And also, the reason that we were able to take advantage of the dragon loops is by, abusing dying after the fight. And the higher level you get and the stronger you get, the more hit points you're ending every fight with. So forcing yourself to die to respawn the dragon gets slower and slower also as you get farther.
That's a good point.
That is a good point.
'Cause at this level, the dragon is not going to be much of a challenge for me anymore.
So it'll be interesting to see when these runners decide to leave. You can go all the way to 17 here. These guys will probably all leave, or mostly leave, a little bit before hitting 17. But it's sort of up to them when they want to take the plunge. Again, you want to be able to make sure that the next dragon they fight, because they will fight one more, will get them to level 17. But the more XP you get here, the less you have to get in Charlock, in Dragonlord's Castle. XP is a little bit quicker there, potentially, but also a little bit more dangerous. So there's definitely a little bit of room for preference and risk-taking to catch up if needed.
Yep. We do have a couple donations here. We have $10 from Nothing. The donation comment is just about a bunch of question marks, so I'm going to take my own interpretation of this and go, eh? And
Alex the Toolman Taylor.
Apparently. And we also have $5 from LLK. Is it just me, or does Dragonloop sound like it would be the name of a roller coaster that loops over and over, getting faster and faster until all the people riding it fly out and are flung into the distant horizon, never to be seen again?
That sounds pretty accurate.
Hey, you all wanted late night donations. Be careful what you wish for.
I tend to think Dragonloop sounds more like a really spicy cereal.
That is...
Dragon loops.
That is...
Part of your balanced breakfast.
I don't know what a spicy cereal would be like, and I'm, as a fan of spicy food, a little bit scared. But I would like to give a shout-out to LLK, who has been a long-time supporter of RPG Limit Break and other Twitch events, including GDQ. She did our promo banners, attendee badges, and emotes. Her work is at jazzaboo.com, JAZAABOO.com. And I'd also like to give a shout out to Carrie Fry for designing our logo, some of our sub emotes, and some of our promo banners. Her website is carriefry.com, KARIFRY.com. And finally, a quick shout out to our overlay and layout artists, Orlin and Namix. Oh, and Mega Weasel also did some of our emotes. I don't want to forget them.
Yeah, we've got some really talented artists volunteering and helping make this event what it is. So thank you so much.
Yeah, as far as that variable XP thing, notice that two of those jerkbirds ago, I did 69 damage and it didn't die, and that one I just killed it like 64. So that's kind of one of the examples of that.
Yeah, and there's a few enemies in the Dragonlord's Castle where that can be somewhat of a significant difference too. So SUMDeaner was just checking his experience to see how much more he needs to kill before he should try to death warp and fight the last dragon.
I'm probably going to go soon. I have enough and I'm out of MP, so...
Yeah, I keep an eye on the timer. I basically start checking at about 7 minutes after 16, so I've only got a couple left. Nice Kaishin. Gotta love killing those jerkbirds early.
Yeah.
So Diener is taking off Roto armor because it prevents you from taking damage on the poison tiles. So you'll walk around on the poison and swing at enemies when they show up until he ends up dying, and the princess will once again return to drowning in the swamp.
Yep.
And somehow magically reappear at the dragon cave. I don't really know why, but...
Star Mud.
Star Mud indeed.
Oh, he does more damage because I have no armor. Right.
Oh no, I'm stop spelled. Whatever will I do?
It's a pretty odd difference for Roto's armor between NES and SFC, is that on NES, the armor actually made you immune to stop spell.
Mm-hmm.
I wish it made you immune to Firebane.
It does reduce the damage from it,
Yes.
but
It does reduce the effect of magic spells.
I don't know, this still hurts.
Oh, well, yeah. Just
Especially
imagine
when-
if you didn't have it.
Yeah, especially when you get back attacked and then get cast on you.
Mm.
Good time. Yes, more dragons, please.
Yeah, the dragon is the best monster to see in the grind. He gives the most experience, and he's typically dies in 2 hits. Not always, but
Right. So, something interesting to bring up here is that there are 5 encounter slots here in this area we're grinding at. And if you're an astute viewer, you might be going, well, Raptor, I've only seen you fight 4 things here. And that's very astute of you if you thought that. And that's because our friend, the RPG Jerkbird, occupies 2 of those slots.
mm-hmm.
So we have a 40% chance of running into the Jerkbird and then 20% of the other 3 things.
Yeah, every encounter zone on the world map and every floor of every dungeon has 5 slots, 20% encounter rate for each of these different 5 monsters, but some monsters will be in more than 1 slot and thus will show up more often than others.
Alright, so SUMDeaner is fighting the last princess dragon of the run. He'll probably run into a couple more regular ones in Charlock.
Okay, I'm
But
good.
This is getting him level 17, and then
Don't
he will
forget.
be picking up the princess to carry on to Dragon Lord's castle.
Come on, Laura, let's go.
Oh yeah, donation incentive. That
I
is
don't-
why I
don't-
took. That's why I didn't do what Pop did and bought keys at the same time as the holy waters, just in case.
Oh, thank you for saving me. You are actually saving me this time, right?
Maybe.
Depends on what Dragon Lord has to say about it.
Tell you what, Laura, I'm not going to get myself killed on purpose.
we intend to save her this time.
It might not happen.
Somebody will save her. Probably. So yeah, so after the grind section and the bonus dragon, as we call it, the next step is to go get the rainbow drop, which will allow the runners to enter Charlock and then stop in at Rimbledar to take an inn and restock their supplies. And so that's sort of what they're doing now, is they're heading off toward that rainbow drop.
Yep.
Making sure to recast Repel on the way to minimize the overworld encounters.
Yeah, similar to before, I'm trying to cast Repel before it wears off, but I messed up there.
One thing that always amuses me is that this guy here with the rainbow drop sort of has a delay in his scripting. So if you're holding Turbo X, then you will continuously check the ground while he's just kind of standing around. So make sure you use Turbo B for this this dialogue.
Yep.
That part right there, he just kind of sits around for a couple seconds.
Oops.
17.
We do have a couple anonymous donations in the amounts of $15 and $5 respectively. And in other news, the Sorceress is pulled a bit closer to the Warrior in Heroine's Quest. So if you have a preference between one of those two, we are getting closer and closer to the end of this Dragon Quest I race. So if you want your voice to be heard, donate.
Now's the chance.
So what SUMDeaner just did there is he just casted a fresh Repel before entering Rimbledar. He's going to be taking an inn in Rimbledar to max out his MP, and the steps for Repel don't really count down while he's in the town, so using it before entering means that he'll get the most value out of it when he leaves without having to have spent the MP for it. Which just cuts down on a couple of random encounters. As mentioned before, you know, it's a good time to stock up on supplies, max out your herbs, make sure you've got a torch. And then
Quick. Okay, looks good.
and then go check the inn, which I believe with the princess has an interesting additional dialogue option. Something to the effect of the innkeeper hearing you up late at night. So it's sort of one of the differences with having the princess with you at this time.
Hey, calm down. This is a family channel.
We were up late last night playing cards.
And Dragon Quest.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, we're definitely up late. Like Dragon Quest.
I'm glad to hear you're so dedicated to your speed games.
So Pop's taken a little bit of a lead over Raptor, but all three runners are very, very close to each other right now.
We also can't see exactly how much experience each of us needs to reach level 18.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I think I have a little bit more experience, and Pop probably has the least. But this is one of these things we talked about earlier. This is a strategy Pop has elected to do. He's sort of gambling on getting favorable encounters in the castle to make up time, whereas I took a little bit more conservative approach, hoping to just get through in one piece.
I don't have a lot because I was at like 800 and something to 17.
So one other important thing to note heading towards the castle is that I also noticed that Pop right now has 95 MP. So when you level up, you get obviously a fixed amount of MP growth, but throughout the run you also pick up, I think, 3 MP seeds, and they can roll anywhere between 3 and 5. And if they all roll 3s, you end up with 95 MP. That's important because the Heal More spell, which is vital to getting through the Dragon Lord fight, costs 8 MP. So if you are at 96 or higher, you get 12 casts of it. But at 95, it means that Pop will only have 11 casts of Heal More for the Dragon Lord. And
She's doing it.
that can be all the difference.
It's not strictly a deal breaker, and in fact, if I get in a dangerous situation against a regular encounter, I may end up using
She's
a Heal
doing it.
More just to stop myself
She
from
moved.
dying. But
Jerk. No, I had my practice run today. I had to cast Heal More during a Shinigami fight,
yeah,
and I still managed to win. So
And on the other hand, it means that he's free to spend a little bit of MPs. He can choose to cast Radiant instead of using a torch, or more likely he can save it for the sleep spell, especially for the stone men that show up. Stone men will be a pretty dangerous encounter, but if you put them to sleep, they're not quite so bad. But it's sort of hit or miss whether you have enough MP to be able to do it. If you have 98 or more from good MP rolls, then you have a free cast that won't affect your Heal More count. But it looks like SUMDeaner and Velociraptor both have 97, so they won't get free casts. And Pop will be able to cast it since he's down a Heal More anyway. He'll get 3 casts of it if he wants.
Oh, I shouldn't be fighting these things, but okay.
Discussion.
what was that, an axe night?
Yeah. Tempting fate with my friend.
Yeah. All right, now we all in Charlock. How about that?
Yeah, so all 3 runners are in the Dragon Lord's castle. They'll be fighting things as they go along. There's a couple enemies like that Axe Knight that are a little bit scary to fight. One of the things that the first thing they're going towards is Roto's sword, which will drastically increase your damage output. And once you get that, then your options for fighting things open up a little bit. The Axe Knights will typically die in 2 hits, and you can more safely kill them, although they can still put you to sleep and have a little bit of fun.
Ooh, back attack.
The dragon-type enemies in this castle are some of the best for experience. The Kiss Dragons give 180.
180.
Yeah, 180. and the Darth Dragons later on give 350. And the Kiss Dragons they can be a little bit scary if they decide to bite you, because they can do a lot of damage.
Wow.
Nice, Kaishin.
Okay.
The Darth Dragons later on have a set pattern, and they'll usually die in 3 hits, which are non-threatening turns. But if they don't for some reason, their bite on turn 4 kind of hurts. But again, the dragon variety monsters are some of the best experience, so usually you're not too upset if you see a few of them. But you've got some medical herbs, so if they bring you too low, you can pop a couple herbs to keep yourself in good shape. But you do want to save some of those herbs for the Dragon Lord.
Nice.
Diener's getting some solid encounters, a bunch of Kiss Dragons, and a couple critical hits on Axe Knights.
Keep that fire breath coming, sir. Oh, dang it. Stop biting. Stop biting. No.
For a little clarification, the Kiss Dragons are the blue ones and the Darth Dragons are red.
And the Stone Man is nope.
Yeah, it's fun. If anyone is familiar with the original Dragon Warrior, the NES version, the red dragons are not your friend, but in this version they give a tremendous amount of experience points, practically double any other monster, and they're very not dangerous, surprisingly, because they have a scripted attack pattern.
Yep.
So you also may notice that some Diener just picked up Roto's sword and chose to equip it in combat rather than through the menu. Again, it's just a little bit faster to menu it that way.
And you're going to notice I'm not going to do that because I don't know how.
Yeah, the menu, the item menu is a little bit strange. Because there's 2 options, one of which isn't really clear what it does. The second option is to equip it, but then it makes you target an enemy to equip it, and the menus are a little bit confusing, especially if you don't understand the language to know what it's asking you.
Yeah, using it as an item in battle doesn't do anything, but the second option lets you equip and choose a target to attack.
Took me 4 tries to run from that thing. And then right away. Cool. Oh man, Kiss Dragon. Not with 70.
So at this
Can't
point,
do it.
At this point, some Diener just checked his experience again. The next floor down is going to be, the encounters are going to become a little bit more difficult. That's where you can find the Darth Dragon, which gives such good experience, but there's also a few fights down there that are really scary, so you sort of manipulate your...
Wake up, wake up, wake up. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
You sort of manipulate your experience value before going down there a little bit.
And yeah, this is a big risk-reward thing. If I come down here soon, I'm hoping to see red dragons, but they only show up at 20% rate.
And Shinigami is 40 there, isn't it?
We'll surely see him soon enough.
Yeah, so on this floor you can get the Stone Man, which is always scary. You can get the Shinigami Knight, which can attack or cast hurt more or cast heal more on themselves. You can get these magician guys. You can get the Darth Dragon and...
Shinigami fills 2 spots.
Okay.
So yeah, that's it.
Oh man, it made me 3-shot with Roto Sword. Get out of here.
The Stone Men and Shinigami, it's sort of optional whether you want to fight them.
Dasu.
Really
Dasu.
only at full health.
I missed.
These are the
I love that.
Darth Dragons.
Ah, I crit him. Fine.
Ooh, I surprised this guy. Free kill.
Alright, so I'm getting close, and I'm on the final floor, so if I can just handle a few more monsters and get my way through the Dragon Lord, I'll be done. No, I missed.
I'll go. Let's see what we got. 54, that's a good first swing. We'll keep going. That's not a good second swing. Okay, still a 3-shot.
Yeah. It seems to depend more on how much HP he spawns with than...
Right. I usually find
Wow.
if I'm swinging in the 50s, I usually do kill him in time.
Shinigami, please.
Although I'm not taking them all at 91. That's not a good idea.
Diener's scaring me a little bit here.
perfectly calculated. Maybe. My herb count is getting a little low. I spent one earlier trying to be safe. That I may be regretting a little bit, but I'm okay now.
Got all 3 players making their approach now.
Yeah, and again,
Dasu!
they won't be starting the Dragon Lord fight until they are level 18, so there's still one last little bit of grinding here. This will get Diener pretty close. I don't know if it'll be quite enough or not, but
It should be.
all right, so Diener's level 18. He needs to get a little bit of health back before he can fight the Dragon Lord. He's opting to use another one of his herbs
Down to 1 though.
and then do a little bit of half-stepping. Pop has a Dasu himself.
Not quite.
Get right, Shinigami. That's not good. That's really not good. Okay.
So yeah, the throne and the wall here make a pretty convenient half-step spot to rely on Roto's armor for restoring your health, but
Alright, close enough. Let's go.
yep, so hold B. Dragon Lord asks if you want to join him, and if you say yes, he'll kick you back out to Rimuldar. So you make sure you don't join him. Dragon Lord 1, he normally takes about 7 hits to kill, and you almost always go first, and he can heal himself, which takes off about 2 hits worth of damage. So you also want to make sure that you're ending the fight
Wow.
at a high enough threshold. Diener just got no heals on DO1.
6 hits, and it killed him.
and
He also
6
whipped his
hits.
sleep.
Yeah, and Dragon Lord 1 can also put you to sleep, which is terrifying. Dragon Lord 2 has a set pattern, so there's HP thresholds for every one of his turns. The 4th turn has a couple of different options. In this case, Diener got the Weak Breath, which is very good. And as long as you stick to those thresholds, the fight is pretty safe. There's a couple times where when you use a healing spell, you may outturn him or he may outturn you, and that can affect your efficiency a little bit, but
I finished the first fight in very good condition, so I'm not as concerned,
right.
but I'm not getting very favorable turn orders here.
Pop is now also starting the Dragon Lord
Oh.
and was put to sleep and put to sleep again. Rariho.
Wow, turn 4 attack much? There we go. Uh-oh.
Ooh. Pop's at kind of low HP.
All right, and Diener has finished the Dragon Lord.
GG, dude.
Nice.
GG.
Thank you. Oh,
Nice
okay.
outspeed.
Dangerous situation for Pop there. He
Yeah.
entered the second phase of the fight at HP that was too low because of the fight ending sooner than he expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, normally you want to be above 55 or so, I think, going into the Dragon
That's
Lord
the
2.
minimum, yeah.
And Pop was at 50, so
So Diener drops off the princess. Those guards take her away, and then talks to the king for a minute.
and it's worth noting that, again, the timing will end on the end
Yep.
because of the Japanese RTA timing. So this end sequence is a little bit longer since there's the princess, but
You
Yep.
jerk.
Now you save the kingdom, so the king basically offers, hey, you want to rule the kingdom since you saved it, and the hero decides he's going to go make his own kingdom. The princess joins him if you save her.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's funny. When I played casually, I always
GG
thought you
Pop.
had to save her, but
Yeah.
in speedrunning, we typically don't. Of course, we took her today, thanks to the incentive that you guys met.
so Pop has also finished the Dragon Lord fight, so
GG.
shortly behind.
Come on. That should be close. I'm gonna check. Oh yeah, I'm close. Okay. A few more fights. Unless you give me a DOS dragon, that'd be nice.
Yeah, so Raptor's just over 500 XP away from level 18, so if I read that right.
Yeah.
So it'll be just a couple more fights, and then he'll also be fighting the Dragon Lord.
Ooh.
One more tidbit related to the donation incentive for saving the princess is that the Dragon Lord actually comments on the fact that you brought her to him. I looked up what he says on the fan translation of the SFC, and he says something like, "Oh, what's this? The princess? What a treat!" Or I don't remember the exact wording, but. Another guy who comments on it that they totally should have talked to is this guard who's laying on the ground in Tanagel Castle. He gets really jealous if you show him the princess.
All right, so Raptor's hitting level 18 here, and then he'll just need to heal up, and then he'll also be able to fight the Dragon Lord. Diener's almost at time.
That's time for me, 1:34:54.
Very, very nice time.
Yep.
For race marathon time, very happy. I had no major setbacks. Nothing really went wrong on my end.
And considering Pop had that death in the mountain
I
cave
know,
early,
right?
he is right behind him.
5.
Our first practice race when Pop got here, Pop got a 1:30, and this is probably just as good of a run if it weren't for that mountain cave death.
Okay.
This is going to be
Okay.
tough.
Phil's MP is low, but
One Kaishin will turn it right back in
Mhm.
there.
some favorable turn orders can also.
Oops. 1,
Yeah, you're gonna want to heal on that turn.
2, 3. Damn it. 4. No. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hmm.
Ugh. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Okay.
1. Do I have any more? No, I don't. Damn it. 2, 3. Why do you keep going first? 4.
Yeah, he's getting some really unfavorable turn order here. Normally you want the heal more to hit after the Dragon Lord uses his
Die,
ability.
please. I'm done, aren't I? Nope. Die, please. Oh, Christ.
Oh!
Yes!
Now that's a Dragon Lord kill. Wow.
Welcome to DQ1.
With turn orders like that, I was sure you were done, but clutching it out to outspeed.
The turn orders were wrong until they were right.
So let's tell this how it is. So this will be my new recorded PB by a lot. I had a practice room 136
Yeah, we had some good
non-recorded.
practice room PBs, but you're on stream when it mattered.
Mhm.
Great job, dude.
And that's with saving the princess, too.
Yep.
Yep.
Swag points. All right.
Excellent race. No major setbacks for anybody. Super close. Couldn't have asked for anything better out of
Good job,
DQ1 at
guys.
this
Great
event.
job.
So
So yeah, that's Dragon Quest 1 Super Famicom Dragonloop category. Really quickly, if anybody is interested in this game, it's actually a pretty straightforward run to pick up and learn. We've got a bunch of charts and guides and maps in our Discord. If you contact any of the runners, we'd be happy to share all that information with you. We're also hosting a Dragonloop tournament. We're holding signups all the way up until the end of the month, so there's still plenty of time to learn the run and join up. We actually had several people this year for 12-hour challenge pick up Dragonloop, so that just goes to show you you can pick up, learn this game, and do runs in less than 12 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, you may be concerned that it's in Japanese only or whatever, but really the Japanese barrier to entry is relatively low. Most of the concepts for the speedrun are relatively simple. There's a lot of subtle optimizations you can do, but in terms of picking it up and completing a run, it's a great RPG to learn. There's always a community that's willing to help out and race. As Diener said, there's the tournament that's going to be going on, which is a good opportunity to get yourself involved, or even just hop in the Discord and start asking questions and learning from people, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and if you are a little nervous about the Japanese stuff, I mean, what I even did was I started learning on the J to E patch, which is really slow, and it's not something you can submit. But then once you learn the route, then start playing this real version here with you know, like a cheat sheet of what the important item names are, and get ready on time. Time.
Great job, everybody.
All 3 racers under 140 is very impressive.
Yes, definitely. Congratulations. Dragon Quest 1, I know, can be a very cruel mistress. So, very well done. Thanks for the race. Thanks for the good commentary. We're going to go ahead and run a quick Twitch ad as we set up for the next game. Other than that, be sure to stick around for Heroine's Quest.
Thanks so much for watching.
Thanks for having us.